What if one of K-pop's most iconic rappers almost never debuted because he was considered too fat, not untalented, not uncharismatic, just not visually acceptable? Before the sharp suits, the deep voice, and the stage presence that could silence a stadium, T.O.P was just Choi Seung-hyun, a kid obsessed with underground hip-hop. Long before Bigbang existed, he was already rapping in the underground scene under the name Tempo. His world wasn't polished stages or choreographed fan chants. It was small clubs, raw beats, and the kind of hip-hop environment where you either prove yourself or disappear. But here's the twist. His path into K-pop happened because of a friendship. Before fame, before stadium tours, Seung-hyun knew another young rapper who was also trying to break into the music industry. That rapper was G-Dragon, and G-Dragon had a plan. When YG Entertainment started preparing a new hip-hop-focused idol group, G-Dragon suggested Seung-hyun audition. There was just one problem. YG rejected him, not because of his rap, because of his weight. In the early 2000s, idol industry, image mattered almost as much as talent. Seung-hyun didn't fit the visual standard the company wanted. The message was clear: lose weight, or the dream ends here. So he disappeared for a while, and when he came back, people barely recognized him. He had lost nearly 20 kilograms. Suddenly the same voice, the same flow, the same charisma were now packaged inside the kind of idol image companies preferred. That transformation changed everything. He auditioned again. This time the answer was yes. But even then, the road wasn't smooth. YG decided to create a survival-style debut process for the group that would become Bigbang. Trainees competed for their spots while cameras documented every mistake, every improvement, every moment of doubt. Seung-hyun wasn't the most polished trainee, he was the most intense. His deep voice cut through tracks differently from the other rappers around him. His delivery felt colder, heavier, more cinematic. Even when he stood still, there was something intimidating about him, the kind of presence that made people instinctively pay attention. Eventually, he debuted under a new name, T.O.P, short, sharp, impossible to forget. And once Bigbang officially launched, something unexpected happened. The group didn't just become successful, they rewrote the rules. Songs like Lies, Haru Haru, and Fantastic Baby turned Bigbang into one of the most influential groups in K-pop history. They weren't just idols, they were cultural forces. Fashion trends, music trends, performance trends. Bigbang pushed all of it forward, and in the middle of the chaos was T.O.P, tall, quiet, slightly mysterious. While the other members talked, joked, and interacted constantly with fans, T.O.P often looked like he had wandered in from another movie entirely. His humor was strange, his personality unpredictable. Sometimes he looked like a philosopher trapped inside a pop star's body. Fans loved it, but fame does something strange to people like him. Because behind the calm exterior was someone far more complicated than the idol industry usually allows. T.O.P wasn't just interested in music. He loved art, literature, film, abstract ideas. He collected modern art. He talked about creativity like a painter instead of a pop star. He sometimes seemed almost uncomfortable with the idol identity attached to him, and that difference made him fascinating, but it also made him vulnerable. Because when someone who already feels out of place enters an industry built on constant exposure, pressure, and perfection, the cracks don't always show immediately. At first, everything looked unstoppable. Bigbang dominated charts. T.O.P became one of K-pop's most recognizable rappers. His acting career started gaining attention with films like 71 Into the Fire. From the outside, it looked like the perfect trajectory: success, respect, influence. But inside the pressure cooker of fame, something else was building. And eventually, that pressure would explode into one of the most controversial scandals in K-pop history. A scandal that would almost destroy T.O.P's career and nearly his life.
At first, T.O.P. looked untouchable, not in the loud, chaotic celebrity way, in the colder, rarer way. While other idols fought for attention with constant smiles, variety show energy, and carefully measured charm, T.O.P. often looked like he had accidentally wandered into K-pop from a completely different universe. He was tall, elegant, slightly distant, and spoke with the kind of deep voice that made even normal sentences sound like dramatic narration. He didn't feel manufactured. He felt expensive. And that image worked. As Bigbang rose from promising rookies to full cultural dominance, T.O.P. became one of the group's most unforgettable members. His rap tone was instantly recognizable. His stage presence didn't depend on over-dancing or over-performing. He could stand still and still look like the most dangerous person in the frame. That's not easy. In a group as explosive as Bigbang, being memorable is already difficult. Being mysterious inside that chaos? Even harder. But mystery became part of his brand. Fans loved his strange humor, his awkward seriousness, his tendency to say things that sounded either deeply intellectual or completely random, sometimes both at once. T.O.P. never gave off the energy of a man who wanted to be a perfect idol. He seemed more like someone tolerating the idol system while secretly thinking about art exhibitions and existential dread. And honestly, that probably wasn't far from the truth. Because as Bigbang's fame exploded, T.O.P.'s interests stretched beyond pop music. He was drawn to acting, visual art, furniture design, literature, and collecting. He didn't just want success. He wanted meaning. That difference made him fascinating. It also made him fragile inside an industry that rewards repetition more than introspection. Bigbang was not a normal group. By the late 2000s and early 2010s, they weren't just charting. They were shaping the entire ecosystem. Lies, Last Farewell, Haru Haru, Fantastic Baby, Bang Bang Bang. Every era felt larger than the last. Their influence on style, music, stage design, and idol branding spread everywhere. And with that scale came the usual poison. Pressure. The schedule pressure. The image pressure. The pressure of being expected to remain iconic all the time, forever, while somehow still looking cool in airport photos, which, to be fair, T.O.P. was annoyingly good at. But pressure doesn't always show up as public meltdown. Sometimes it hides under quietness. T.O.P.'s acting career added another layer. His performance in '71, Into the Fire, earned attention and praise, proving he wasn't just a rapper with a famous face. He had real screen presence, real control, real gravity. For a moment, it seemed like he was expanding beyond idol fame into something more lasting. And that may have been part of the conflict, because the more he grew artistically, the less naturally he seemed to fit inside the machine that made him famous in the first place. By the mid-2010s, Bigbang were still huge, but the mood around them was changing. Fame had matured into something heavier. They weren't the fresh rebels anymore. They were veterans carrying enormous expectations, public scrutiny, and years of exhaustion. Then came military enlistment season. In South Korea, military service is not a side note. For male celebrities, it is a turning point. Careers pause. Public perception sharpens. Mistakes become more serious because the country is watching from a different angle. T.O.P. enlisted in 2017, and what should have been a standard chapter in a major star's life turned into disaster. Because buried underneath the polished image, the art collecting, the stoic coolness, and the years of pressure, there was already something unstable. Then the scandal hit. Marijuana. Suddenly, everything changed. Not slowly, not gracefully, instantly. And for someone like T.O.P., already distant, already scrutinized, already not fully comfortable inside the idol template, this wasn't just a controversy, it was an implosion. One that would push him into public shame, national headlines, and a psychological collapse so severe that this story stopped being about celebrity scandal and became about survival.
When the scandal finally hit, it didn't arrive like gossip, it arrived like collapse. In 2017, while serving his mandatory military duty, T.O.P became the center of a marijuana scandal after being accused of smoking marijuana with a former trainee. In some entertainment industries, that would mean a bad month, a carefully worded apology, maybe a temporary disappearance followed by a comeback single with sad piano. In South Korea, it was much bigger than that. Because this wasn't just about celebrity behavior, it was about image, military duty, public trust, and the very Korean idea that if you've already been given fame, money, and status, then you absolutely do not get to make mistakes in uniform. The backlash was immediate, headlines everywhere, comment sections brutal, public opinion cold, T.O.P admitted to the charges, the legal consequences followed. But what made this scandal different from the usual celebrity controversy was how quickly it turned from public disgrace into something much darker. Because this was not just a man losing face. This was a man falling apart in real time. After the scandal broke, he was removed from his police unit assignment, and the humiliation became national spectacle. Every detail was covered, every facial expression analyzed, every silence interpreted. And with someone like T.O.P, someone already known for distance, melancholy, and a certain emotional opacity, the public didn't see vulnerability, they saw scandal. Then came the moment when the story stopped being content. Reports emerged that T.O.P had been hospitalized after an apparent overdose of prescription medication while under immense pressure from the scandal and its fallout. And suddenly, the tone changed, or at least it should have, because at that point this was no longer just about marijuana. It was no longer even just about a celebrity making a mistake. It was about mental health, public cruelty, exhaustion, shame, and what happens when someone who already seems psychologically fragile gets crushed under a national microscope. But public culture is not always kind enough to slow down when it should. Some people expressed concern, others stayed vicious. That's the ugliest part of fame. Even collapse doesn't always earn compassion. For T.O.P, this period became the breaking point of everything that had been building quietly for years. The pressure of Bigbang's fame, the discomfort of idol identity, the burden of scrutiny, the loneliness of being misunderstood, and now the total destruction of public image in the middle of military service. And once that kind of collapse happens, there is no easy way back. Because after the hospital, after the scandal, after the legal punishment, one question hung over everything. Could T.O.P ever return? Not just to Bigbang, not just to music, to public life at all. Because what had shattered wasn't only his reputation, it was his place in the machine. And the machine, once it pushes you out, is not known for opening the door gently again. After the scandal, the worst thing wasn't the court case. It was the silence, not the peaceful kind, not the artist taking time to reflect kind, the colder kind, the kind where your name still appears everywhere, but only attached to the same words: marijuana, military, disgrace, downfall. That kind of silence doesn't heal you, it traps you. For T.O.P, the aftermath was brutal because there was no clear way back. In K-pop, image is currency, and once the public decides your image is broken, rebuilding it is almost harder than debuting in the first place. He completed his alternative service, but when the official obligations ended, the emotional distance remained. He didn't rush into a comeback. He didn't give a dramatic redemption interview. He didn't release a sad ballad asking for forgiveness. Instead, he pulled away. More silence. Fewer appearances, strange social media posts that made fans wonder whether he was hinting at something deeper or simply refusing to explain himself. And the longer he stayed away, the more obvious it became. This was no longer just about returning to music. It was about whether he even wanted to return to the idol system at all. Because scandal doesn't just destroy reputation, sometimes it destroys trust. trust in the public, trust in the industry, trust in the stage itself. And by this point, T.O.P no longer looked like a star preparing a comeback. He looked like someone deciding whether that world still deserved him. What makes T.O.P's story different from many other K-pop scandals is that he never really came back in the way people expected. There was no perfect redemption arc, no grand return designed to make everyone forgive him, no desperate attempt to become softer, safer, or easier to sell. If anything, T.O.P seemed to move even further away from the idol image. He focused more on art, collecting, privacy, and distance, the parts of himself that had always existed beneath the celebrity surface. And that may be the final twist in his story. The scandal didn't just damage his public career, it exposed how little he may have truly belonged inside the idol machine in the first place. For years, he had looked like a man slightly out of sync with the system around him. Too strange, too inward, too interested in things that didn't fit neatly into idol branding. The scandal didn't create that feeling, it revealed it. And maybe that's why his story still lingers. Not because it ended cleanly, not because it offered closure, but because it didn't. From underground rapper to Bigbang icon, from scandal and collapse to silence and detachment, T.O.P's story is messy, unresolved, and deeply human. He didn't return to prove he could still fit the mold. He stopped trying to fit it at all. And sometimes that is more unforgettable than a comeback. Because even in absence, even in silence, T.O.P remains what he always was, impossible to file neatly away.